Kanje Sergio Rabin Mendara Dala Jinijinda, Dingan Ruji Mabaz, the Sawan Nebulunum Kaindan, Kanjir Nepal of the Gaveri Bazimba Kaimba, Teda Tamje Tarba Tambe Gurju, two based on Inchin in Dirshe, Ladalem J. Wambodan, Jajin Las Sujichola Chajabanam, Sangi Sundar, the Shitching David Jerutuba. Teda Sheji Tambi Chunin in Dirshe. Kanta Chojutonga Jitena Deshe Lomarjuba Kansuda Tenter Tembechuji Charbibji Nyambardeba Tamje Dreshe Namo Laegedolodonijinga Drum the meat and Dragon Jetanam Chisamber Tamje Gedo Taki Choten do Paldensavel Marumbaje Dagijor Bemedejan Karinjambegunejis on the Kusum to Jimudu Saldo so Tapketuchi Shache Risutun. Shenjime tupdu jipung jamba serji lumbu tabru jibe ku shaji jabe shabla chaktsalo chaktong kholu jibe jabotong chentong kabo sambu sangetong kangla kangdu tela tertemba tsumba cherezila chaksalo seji jawa tamji ji ishi pumbu chigdu sishi kunji paljurbe jambe yangla chaksalo kangshi tongni shinje ponyala san dawanam tani chojir jeba doji chenla chaksalo Korwal the Tarema Tutara Jijo Turena, one number to Drumayum La Chaksalo Shejatam Jezibechayamba, Dugunjel Dubitu Jechin, some Yetilezibetum, Jamgulami Shabla Guchata, Soa de Solama, Kinseva, Jesunshilama, Kinseva, Dingmin, Gaulama, Kinseva, Sulder, Signal Lama, Kinseva, Tujezilama, Kinseva. Chano lama, chinsa de chano, chinlap, terchintani lama, jambal de chano. Choku tanglo, ningi kolo, namsam kangi chakdang so, nesim, tachi tambe meba, tegun kambi seji chi. Jasi to namdara sabjing jache tala, nirso zu, yapchingile, lashin tala, rewa machi kanginda. Insen, kundu jamyan kube samjing cheji tukjishu, Chungse menye menje surngi ranginye bille bisse tadung, kyunye majur pardo chapshin, solvar majur roche. Ujin yujin nobjang san pema gazaradongbo la yansin chogi ngudumni pema chungne shasoto. Kordo kandro mangbar kur chiji jesu tadukchi shinche, laptir shiksu sol guru pema sidi hong, kusum lama, sochi doji. Tala chok domong jing drop saldo song, Ujin Rinpoche la so andam galjin barjin me jun shi tunchen samba drop adan chok na domong drop saldo song. Well, we are back again in Oslo. I'm so impressed by you guys that you come here to listen about compassion. Compassion. It's been a while since Dharma Center asked me to talk about compassion. That's so... It's such a beautiful thing, just even to think, oh, I want to listen about compassion. So, as Lamala said, thank you so much for having this motivation that you want to spend your evening talking about compassion. And that's what it is. That's what it does, motivation. Everything is dependent on that. Years ago, maybe 2-3 years ago, Linné had a thought, oh, I'm going to have this Lama come to our beautiful center in Oslo. Now I'm here. That's how motivation works. It makes things happen. And whatever merit that comes from it, it all started from that initial motivation. since this is a Dharma gathering, motivation is supreme here. Anyway, even in ordinary situation, condition, we want to know the motivation, even when someone helps us. But if we know that their motivation is not good, we don't really appreciate it. So even in our mundane, what we call mundane, ordinary lives, motivation is so important for us. Who really, truly wishes us well, we really like them. Even if their effort is small, even if their capacity is small, it doesn't matter much to us. It's something so precious and we appreciate it. Well, as Siddhartha Gautama said, Chunam Tamji Ting, the Dimbizilla Ratanes. All phenomena are conditions, he said. All phenomena are mere conditions or causes. Or all phenomena follows causes and conditions. And of all the causes and conditions, motivation is supreme. It is motivation that decides what is good or bad. It is motivation that decides if something is Dharma practice or not, regardless of physical appearance or verbal discipline. Motivation is truly the most important thing. Well, you can have motivation if you're someone who is in this kind of places for the first time. Motivation to know what compassion is. How can I be compassionate? How can I be a better person? Someone who is tolerable, someone, that can be your motivation too. Some people complain to me sometimes, oh, everybody runs away from me. Sometimes it's because, yes, you have to be a bit kind, you have to be a little bit nice, a little bit tolerable. That can be your motivation too, and that then is how you will understand this whole evening. Even if you decided that today, decide to take a walk through your city, you decide, I'm going to be kind today. I'm going to help someone today. Let's say like that. You just think like that. I'm going to help someone today. You will notice that even the buildings, their edges are smoother today. It's nicer. The lights are more brilliant or warmer. Nothing to do with the world. It's you, your mind, your motivation. You go out with such a beautiful thought that permeates your world and your perception of things. Of course, then, if you are a Dharma practitioner, then compassion is something we have to get back to again and again. It really... Yes, a Dharma practitioner who is not compassionate is not a beautiful sight. It's not nice. Really not nice at all. I was with a Dharma practitioner recently. He was so feared by people. They were afraid to use one spoon from his kitchen. I thought, what kind of Dharma practitioner is that? Compassion is really, really important. Compassion. Of course, then if you're on the path, our teacher tells us that the true sign of accomplishment is compassion. Yeah, are you becoming compassionate, more tolerant, more kind and understanding? Then yes, your path is going well. If you're not really becoming compassionate, you're becoming detached from this world. You don't care what happened in this world. You're happy in your retreat place, having all nice dreams and little bit of experience here and there. That's really, you don't know if that is dharma or mara. Probably mara. So for a dharma practitioner, it's not a matter of choice. It's not, do I be compassionate or not? It's not a thing to explore. There is no choice. For a dharma practitioner, you have to be compassionate. You have to be kind. There is no path without that, especially Mahayana. Or same Theravada too. I don't think you can become arahat if you're not kind. I don't think that's possible. And so, yes, as Dharma practitioners, if you're someone who have taken Bodhisattva vows, if you're someone who's taken Vajrayana initiations, Vajrayana vows, then time and again, compassion is the fuel. It truly is the fuel. Compassion and devotion, these two, is something we just cannot do without. Compassion, because we know the suffering, what suffering is. Devotion, because we see the qualities of Buddha. Qualities of Buddha. And so, this is the kind of motivation we should have for this evening. I haven't really traveled far, but I've been traveling a lot. And also, I could be with my daughters right now. So I have to make it worth it. So as a speaker, my motivation is to say something useful. And that should be my motivation, that whatever we discuss today, it should, however ignorant, arrogant, aggressive, and utterly blown by desire I usually am, I do not bring it here. Here, I only think about the things that I have learned from my teachers, from the Buddha, and I say whatever I feel that may help us think about compassion, understand compassion, explore it more, and get more acquainted with it. I have met compassionate people in this life. We all have. I have been very fortunate to have met some really, really compassionate people, some of my teachers. So I'm also thinking about them, their qualities, and then please ask questions. Like last year, it was so nice. You guys asked so many questions. Well, not you, but in a way, the people that were there, they had questions. Dharma is like that. You have to ask questions. You have to contemplate and discuss, and then meditate, of course. Before we begin, I would like to request that we try and sit straight. I'm so happy that you have such good representation of Siddhartha Gautama sitting under the Bodhi tree. So that is the samadhi. we bring to our mind this Indian prince who became fully awakened for the sake of his loved ones, for the sake of others. The depiction that is here and our object of meditation is Buddha seated under the Bodhi tree. It represents awakening, this visualization, because under the Bodhi tree he became awakened. His right hand touching the ground and left hand in meditation posture, and his gaze fixed on you. The time is that of dawn. That's when Siddhartha Gautama attained enlightenment. Right as during the time the light of dawn spread through the forest of Gaia, wisdom of full awakening arose in his mind. So, a fully awakened being in front of us. No aggression, no obsession, no ignorance. Full of compassion and wisdom and strength. Completely free. Buddha is completely free. One of the qualities of the Buddha is fearless. Buddha is fearless, completely fearless. And one of the reasons why Buddha is fearless is because Buddha has nothing to hide. No hypocrisy, no pretense. What would you do if you come face to face with a fully awakened being who has no pretense, only compassion and wisdom for you? Thank you so much. So the main part of this evening is done. That was it. Just thinking about Buddha. Would you believe if you are told that just now, when you were thinking about Siddhartha Gautama, 100,000 of lives of negative karma is removed, purified? I guess not. It's difficult to believe. We have such low opinion of ourselves. I did that? I can do it right now? Just thinking about Buddha like that? In many ways, Dharma practice is then just gaining full trust on one's own mind. And when that is done, you're awakened. When you have 100% trust on the potential of your mind. You can call it nature of your mind or whatever. According to Siddhartha Gautama, that what you just did is the highest meditation a bodhisattva can do. The samadhi of bodhisattva, he said, in the King of Samadhi, that in an instant when you contemplate on a Buddha, fully awakened being, out of gratitude, devotion, awe, or even wonderment. How did he look like? How did he sound? When Buddha spoke, there was a voice. People heard a voice. What did he sound like? That you accumulate so much merit that even if you are a monk or a nun who have transgressed the root vows, you have lost your vow, if you gather yourself and think upon the Buddha for 49 days, he said, your vows will return. I guess if I say this in a monk community, they will gasp. Here is not much effect. Vows returning is crazy talk. Once you lose your vow, you can't return. It cannot return. But in Mahayana, very possible, all you need to do is think about the Buddha. This is a big chunk of Mahayana, by the way, that we seem to have lost touch with. Thinking about Buddha, all the Mahayana Sutras is all about bodhisattvas meeting Buddhas, receiving teaching, witnessing the activities of Buddha, purifying Buddha realms, Buddha this, Buddha that. It's one of the most important practice of Mahayana. And we think we are travelers of this Mahayana, great vehicle. In terms of Buddha, everything that Buddha was or did was out of compassion. Everything was accounted for. Even when Buddha would smile, monks would ask, why did the fully awakened being smile? And Buddha would say, this is the reason I smile. It was all for the sake of others, for the awakening of others. And so in that regard, path is nothing more than improvement of our compassion. When our compassion reaches its full potential, that's full awakening. The great Chandrakirti is an Indian master, very much known and loved for his teaching on emptiness. Emptiness. We'll talk about emptiness tomorrow if you are here. We talk about the Diamond Cutter Sutra. Is what he said. Kangchir tseni jabe loto punso dei. Kela. Saventani pella chuda teshindu. Longchunela mimba tavru dujurba techir thagi. Tomar Nyingje Tebrachis. When he wrote his famous Entering the Middle Path, it's one of the most celebrated commentaries of Buddha's teaching. First thing he did was he made prostration to compassion. He said, I make prostration to compassion. Why? Because he said, that it is the compassion that was the seed of Buddhahood, of people like Siddhartha Gautama. It was the compassion that was the seed. It was also the compassion that was like the conditions, water, soil, earth, and so on. It was the compassion that was like the protection as the path was growing within the mind stream of Siddhartha. It was his compassion that kept it safe, protected, that he did not lose his resolve to benefit others. And then finally it was compassion that made him bloom into a fully awakened being. So I make prostration to compassion first. I know we're supposed to talk about compassion and wisdom. Wisdom we'll discuss a lot in the next 2 days, if you're here. It is all about our mind, your mind. And I would really request you to have some trust upon your mind. To trust the strength of your mind. This is, if you don't trust your mind, you can recite mantras, you can meet Siddhartha Gautama, nothing will happen. Because you don't trust your mind. If you watch yourself when you get angry, look at yourself. Your heart starts beating, you cannot breathe. I cannot breathe these days when I get angry. My mind is that strong. It almost kills me. If you are in love, have you been in love? Don't tell me, but I'm sure you have. I have. For days, I had no hunger. My friends had to give me bread, eat, because I'm in love, totally in love. I cannot wake up before 9 p.m. usually, 9 a.m. That's too much. In those days, 9 a.m. But when I was in love, I got up at 4 because from 4 to 4:30 there was like a small window to meet this person, early morning. That's how strong my mind was. It changed my whole habit. If you can trust your mind, and you can look at how miserable it makes us. Look at how giddy it makes us sometimes. Someone says small things. Oh, I like your jacket. And you're just so happy the whole day. Keep looking at yourself. It's about a jacket. It's not you, but you just... Everything is so beautiful. You walk differently. When people say nice, small things, this is power of your mind. You should really trust it. Or else then the next 2 days is like, I'm sure it will benefit you, but Dharma is in many ways an attempt for us to really trust the strength of our own mind, how strong this thing is, this mind of ours. Yes. Then you can talk about compassion. You can talk about emptiness, impermanence, whatever. It will work. It will work. It will be so easy. Because you begin to you begin to fathom the strength of your mind. Well, to be honest, compassion is probably the only thing that is worth having in this world. Compassion, being kind. As a meditator, if you contemplate, you look at beings, sentient beings, this world, and you try to look for traces of awakening, enlightenment, something that tells us that yes, they can become Buddha. They can become fully awakened, whether they call it Buddha or not. They can be free. I think it's compassion. It is the flaw in the design of samsara is that beings can laugh. This is and yes, it is desire in the beginning. It's a desire, utter desire. Even when you look at animals, it always amazes us, amazes me at least, when I look at animals like birds. Parents almost starve themselves to protect and feed the children. How full of fear they live ordinarily, their lives. Always looking out for dangers, always trying to survive and trying to run. They're always panicky. Birds usually, they're not like bears, Bears are like relaxed. Birds are always panicky. They're always panicky for good reason. It's almost like everybody wants to kill you. And in the midst of that, this run, this rush to survive, they manage to laugh. To an extent, they manage to laugh against their better judgment almost, to an extent that they forget to eat. So many like that. I think Buddha, what he called it, he said this is the signs of Buddha nature. Maitreya said this to the scholars. Scholars like good language, so Maitreya said, these are the signs of Buddha nature. Sounds exciting, but what it means is that beings can laugh. Beings, however frightened, tired, selfish, we are selfish. However selfish sentient beings are, they can still care for others, they can laugh. And that, he said, is the light of Buddha nature escaping the silhouette of their mind. It can, once in a while, like a lightning in a dark night, nothing is visible. Once in a while, there's a lightning and everything is bare, then it's gone. But do you know what is there now? It's like that, compassion. Sorry, I haven't spoken on compassion for a long time, so I don't know the usual.
pretty much like us. Thank you. I always queued up in the film, and then for then it's so free. I don't like all. Bye. But I think that's when I work, feeling work on some good filmmakers. Exactly, got by the sign of for the right, the question is not small. Excellent.
Thank you.
Can I ask you?
Yes?
I propose that, for I understand it like that, immediate compassion is connected with cognition. Real compassion is connected with, how call it, courage. Is it so?
Yes, that sounds very nice. Idiotic compassion is with cowardness. Real compassion is with courage. Yes, why not?
Excuse me, I just.
Oh.
Someone didn't hear.
Okay. So then the path, the entire path of Buddhahood is merely this progress of compassion, in our compassion. There's really nothing else, to be honest. Truly, like Chandrakirti said, compassion is the seed of awakening. It is the water, it is the protection, it is the teacher, it is everything. It is the guide, and it is what awakening is in an ultimate sense. In Buddha's own journey, his journey started in what he said was a hell realm, a hellish existence, where he was enslaved. Him and his friend, they were enslaved, and they had to pull this extremely heavy chariot in many lives ago. And it was difficult, and there were people sitting on this chariot and like punishing them. Buddha, luckily in that life, was born as a strong person, but his friend, his companion, was very weak, so kept falling and kept getting beaten up again and again. And in that instant, seeing all that, I am sure he was afraid. I don't think he was like just saw someone suffering and then jumped without any fear. I'm sure he was so afraid. But courage can also be built. And I'm sure this being, this past life of Siddhartha, built courage for a long time. And finally, he spoke to the person who was punishing them, saying, hey, this, my friend, is clearly very weak. He cannot do it. Let me do his work too. Let me push this all alone. And he spoke knowing the danger. And but he was overcome with compassion. And so he said that. And then this person who was punishing them hit his head with a hammer, saying, all beings, we suffer with our own karma. Who are you to play the savior? And he died, and immediately was reborn in higher realms. So what is important is that when Siddhartha Gautama finally become fully awakened beings. Fully awakened beings. When his disciples asked him, when did your path begin? He said, it began then. That was my beginning. Again and again he said, that genuine thought of compassion set me off on this path. And then for countless of lives, 3 countless aeons, for 3 countless aeons, that compassion sustained his path. Sometimes he faltered, sometimes he forgot, but always it was the compassion that brought him back again and again on the path. So when he taught compassion, he also then taught using attachment. Attachment has the capacity to create compassion, create love and care. And that's why I said this is like the only design flaw in samsara. Samsara is, if you think about the context of samsara, it is perfect. It is so good. It's really like the only thing that can put a crack in samsara. You know what we're called? The Buddha calls us tsurthong, tsurulthonga. That means someone who can only see what's in front of them. That is our name. He doesn't even, he says, tsurthong sosuchew. These 2 names he would call again and again. Tsurthong is someone who can only see what's in front of them. Sosuchew is individual being who think that they are different, like I, you, me, we are different. So he says, Surthong Sosuchewu. In case of Tsurthong, it's such a beautiful thing. Sinister, beyond imagination. And what is it? It's nothing special. Samsara is just this. You believe in whatever you see. That's it. That's samsara. Oh, there's this color, you, me, like there's nothing else exists, only this. Only this. You're a human being, so you believe anything that is in the human realm for you to experience, and anything that you do not experience is not there, or it doesn't even cross your mind. And then you die one day, and you're like an earthworm. And then that's it. That's the only thing that is there in existence. Whatever sort of land you cover by dragging yourself, however earthworms walk, that's it. That's the only in existence and nothing else. And then, like a fish or whatever, human again or whatever, and then that is it. That's the only thing that's there. It's a beautiful design, to be honest. That is samsara, nothing else, but just this mind reconvincing itself into believing whatever it perceives to be the truth, and that's only there is, the truth. That is Chutong. That is ignorance, by the way. Nothing else. Ignorance is not like a dark shadow in your mind. Ignorance is just this. You, us, me, believing whatever that happens to me. What was I talking about? Yes. So, in all that, throughout all that, this ability to care for someone, love, be kind, be gentle once in a while, this is really the crack in the design. The only secret door left by our mind, if you believe that everything is created by your mind, samsara is your mind's creation, then it is the compassion can be towards your parents, your children, love, compassion. Your friends, partners, countrymen, women, whatever. Or you relate with someone. My mother had to raise us children pretty much by herself. So I relate with that. Every time I see like a single mother or a child who is raised by a single, I relate to it. It's easy for me to be compassionate. That's good. So something we relate, when we relate with someone or something, also arises compassion. You can have compassion. Some have compassion to only humans. And it is also admirable, all humans. Or compassion towards all beings, all beings. Those who crawl, those who dig, those who fly, swim, walk. All beings, by understanding that we all, there's a stripped bare of all complex philosophy or whatever. All we want is happiness and to escape suffering. It's that simple. And then you have ground for compassion because you begin to understand the other person. Now your compassion getting better. No longer driven merely by desire, compassionate to your friends and loved ones, but compassion that's based on understanding. You are getting out of idiotic compassion. Then you understand that, yes, we all seek happiness, and we all want to get rid of suffering. But how to get happiness? What is happiness? First of all, we don't know that. Most of us don't know. That's why we keep buying. That's why we keep traveling, keep meeting, keep doing things, because we're not content. We've done everything there is. People are going to space now. Billionaires are going to space because it's not enough. Earth is not enough anymore. Don't think that, oh, I will never do that. We might even be worse than these guys. We have that potential to do all the things that they're doing. And so, not knowing what is suffering. What is suffering? Why did Buddha said? The first thing he taught was no suffering. What a strange thing to say. No suffering? Why would he waste his breath on no suffering? Well, we expect everybody to know suffering. It's a pain, it's a heartbreak, rejection. This is suffering, like mental and physical pain. That's what we think. But for him, that was a very, very, very small part of suffering. That was the too late suffering. So no suffering. What is suffering? What is happiness, contentment? So not knowing that is ignorance. And so now you have a kind of compassion that has the wish to not only make others happy and remove their suffering, but also is intrigued into finding out what makes happiness, what makes suffering, creates suffering. And the wish to remove all that, not only the suffering, but the cause of suffering, and to bring not only happiness, but the cause of happiness to others. That kind of mind you can call bodhicitta. Bodhicitta. It's not just... Bodhicitta is thinking about long terms. You can feed someone today. What about tomorrow? What about next year? What about next life? Where are they going to go? I worry like that with my daughters because I am extremely attached to father. So I look at them, I feel like I have so much love. But then I think about what will happen to them after I die. As long as I'm alive, I will do whatever I can. I will even steal or rob someone to feed them. But what about after I die? Who will take care of them? What about the next lives? Maybe I myself will harm them. That thought is extremely scary to me. So, Bodhisattva should think like that. It's the difference of a blind person giving you advice how to go somewhere. They know some things, they have touched everything. So they can tell you some things, they have heard things, they have smelled different street. So they can tell you, but it can only go so far. And then someone who has only lived in Oslo can give you some advices. Also can only go so far. But then someone who's been, let's say you want to go to Bodh Gaya, I should have said that first. Let's say you want to go to Bodh Gaya, the place where Buddha gained awakening. Each person, the way they will advise you will be very different based upon their experience, their vision, what they know. And so, the advices of Buddha is very different. Instructions of Buddha is very different. Someone who sees thousands and millions of miles will give you very, very different advices than someone who only been for a few steps. Now, if I am such a person now, if I am a compassionate person, let's imagine that I am a compassionate person, and I want to help beings, I want to remove their suffering and give them all the happiness, joy, and lasting happiness, contentment. What would I do? What would be my example? So even historical, if you look back, there have been all kinds of persons, great men and women, scientists, philosophers, kings, emperors, all kinds of people. But this man, Siddhartha Gautama, he stands out. Very unique personality. Very, very strange. If you look into Buddha's lives, when Buddha would teach, people would gain awakening right then and there. They wouldn't have to go somewhere to meditate and practice and come back. So many. When he spoke to a mass murderer who was running after him with a sickle, trying to kill him, he saw Buddha's face and he was shocked. This man has no fear. I am the most feared person in this world. I've killed 999 people with my sickle. And this person has no fear. So he asked the Buddha, why did you not stop when I asked you to stop? And Buddha said, I have stopped for a long time. It is you who has not stopped. And just that, conversation like that, he gave up everything, killing all the murderous path and became a monk and became awakened in this very lives after killing 999 people. So, and also when you look into Buddha's lives, he really lived according to the teachings. And it doesn't really seem to have any hypocrisy too. It's extremely sincere, fearless although. So now if I have to think of an example, what would be the best state that I can imagine sentient beings to be in, to be fully free of all sufferings? Then Buddhahood is the answer I find. Wisdom. Because right now our compassion is very limited, it's conditional, very conditional, and it's sticky. There's so much expectations and as Jamgun Kongtul Rinpoche says, Tambo Samje Chele me bala, Tama Dubju, but I forgot, Korwa, Dongal Ju, something like that. That initially the only thought I had was only Dharma. I just want to be beneficial, but I end up accumulating samsara only. Many times we go in with our compassion, trying to help. And we end up doing something else. Khyentse Rinpoche, our teacher, Dongsa Khyentse Rinpoche, he says, our compassion right now is like someone who has a sticky hand is smeared with honey, because honey is sweet. I guess he used that because this kind of compassion is kind of sweet, innocent, I want to help. But then you try to clean someone's face while your hand is full of honey. So you end up making it worse. So, very soon, very quickly, if you try to help others, you will quickly realize our limitations. I do. It is a nightmare not to have any wisdom, to be utterly ordinary. I don't know what to say. People sometimes have strange suffering, profound suffering, and you don't know what to do. Not having wisdom, just like a blind person giving advices where to go. So, like I said, the more you contemplate on compassion, suffering, and happiness, you begin to drift more and more towards awakening or wisdom. Wisdom. We're not talking about wisdom. When we say wisdom, we're not talking about a kind of wisdom like a old grandpa, grandmas may have about life. We're not talking about that kind of wisdom that you read from books of lessons. This kind of wisdom, we're talking about a kind of wisdom that is, it's basically, again, going back to mind, it's basically a change in your mind. But this time, this change is irreversible. Once you gain this kind of wisdom we're talking about, there is no going back. Once you see emptiness, there's no going back to being miserable or being self-doubting or doubting anything for that matter. Once you gain this wisdom. Because the seed is destroyed. What a joy it must be to have this wisdom. That's why the first bhumi, the first time when a bodhisattva gets this wisdom of emptiness, it is said that bodhisattva gets so joyful, it's euphoric, they become euphoric. Just so much joy, it's blissful. That wisdom is called Ratugawa, extreme joy. Finally free, finally really, truly helpful now. Can really do something substantial to help others. Yes. Knowing emptiness, knowing the reality of things through self-experience, through direct experience is called wisdom. In the praise of the Buddha, one of the praises is Rikpa Tang Shapsudemba. Rikpa, meaning, it basically means you who have eyes and feet. Eyes, meaning you who can see and walk. We do not see and walk. We are just blown away by causes and conditions. It's like that. I'm sorry. These two things I will repeat again and again. The strength of your mind, the unimaginable strength of your mind, and the weakness of our mind again, that it is so unreliable. It's so unreliable. This could make me very happy today. Oh, tomorrow is useless. I want it to make me happy tomorrow too, but it doesn't. It doesn't work. Unreliable. Whereas, so not seeing and being able to go wherever you see. Whereas Buddha has eyes, Rikpa tongues, it means wisdom. Buddha has wisdom. Shapsudemba, you who have eyes and feet, meaning you who have wisdom, and you who can do anything that's necessary to help beings. Siddhartha Gautama. So, yes, true compassion is not just to help someone, wish someone to be free from a war, however terrible it may be. Of course we wish all beings to be free from war, but that's not necessarily true compassion here, because it doesn't last. It's not a lasting solution. What about the next war? What about the next? Same with hunger, same, any situation that you can think of. The only true protection is that their minds be free. And then anything else is then temporary. So that kind of compassion is then compassion with wisdom, compassion with understanding. It's not just it's very far-sighted. It's extremely far-sighted. When you have such compassion, you're stable. Your mind becomes stable, so strong, courageous. Things will happen here and there, and it will hurt you. It will sort of dampen your mood now and then. But again and again, this compassion will arise. And this kind of compassion Chandrakirti again, the same master that I quoted before. Chandrakirti says, Drowa yo chui nangke dawatar yo tang rangshi nichi tongba tongba is. He said, this kind of compassion is what bodhisattvas have. And he said the bodhisattvas, the way they're compassionate is that they look at sentient beings as as reflections of moon upon the surface of a moving water. It moves and it is empty in nature. And so Bodhisattvas have immense compassion. They've seen that. They have immense compassion that if only the whole world would go to that direction, if only beings would be interested in that, if they would look inside, inwardly, it is right there.
Yeah.
I believe in this center you also talk about Buddha nature. Lamala also probably taught last year, I think he told me one time about Buddha nature. Buddha nature. That's again strength of your own mind, this mind that you have. That's bored, sleepy, or depressed, or whatever. This mind, that same thing. It's built up. What it is built up is pure wisdom. That's what Buddha nature says. Now we're going further and further into Mahayana compassion. Then you look at beings, and then the kind of compassion you have is no longer them being hungry or not, no longer them being physically and mentally suffering or not. It's just You have questions, please? Before I go on,
Hello, Rinpoche. You talk about compassion, and we also learned that we call it the other part of that is the wisdom. And normally we think of wisdom as realizing the empty nature of phenomena. But I saw something I was very struck by. I saw, maybe you remember, or maybe also saw the film about this football team in Thailand with the young boys that got trapped in a long cave system during heavy rains. And you can see the whole village, everybody was like a surge of compassion. Everybody wanted to help. But what really was the clincher was that there was this British team of divers. They were kind of cave divers. And in a very clever way, they managed to get these boys out. And to me, that was perfect combination of compassion and wisdom. In a more, you can say, in more normal sense, not kind of wisdom as emptiness. But I think that kind of wisdom is very, very important too, in order to kind of make the compassion work. Otherwise, they would have been trapped there if they didn't have this special knowledge, special competence.
Yes, Bodhisattvas are excellent divers. It's like that. Sadly, samsara is not as simple as being stuck in a cave, although it is a terrible thing. We saw this on news, no? The whole world. Yeah. It's a really good example of compassion and wisdom. Whereas here the wisdom is, of course, knowing the water, knowing the distance and all that, whatever that is involved in bringing these children home, and their coach, isn't it?
Yeah, also.
So it's similar, very similar.
Yeah, you can say that was the coach, the football coach's wisdom to kind of teach them how to meditate.
Yeah.
And all the villagers trying to get the water, not to kind of run into the mountain.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of competence also to come together with the compassion.
Yes.
I was very touched by seeing this film.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for bringing it up.
Then I have another question. Yeah, it's. I mean, you also mentioned this the expression by Trungpa about idiot compassion. So how do we kind of discern idiot compassion from true compassion? You also said this kind of compassion with stickiness. So how do you kind of go from that sticky quality to the kind of really selfless compassion?
By wanting to do that, by really wanting to go away from this. When you want to go away from this, then your mind becomes alert. And then let's say you're helping someone, and while helping you have expectations, then it begins to notice those things. We have so many conditions when we help someone. They have to be thankful. That's first. So all these things, this hunger of recognition that we have, recognition, some sort of return, or we feel like a good boy or a girl when we do something good, and you begin to notice all these little games our mind play, even in a simple act. But that only happens when you truly wish to rid yourself of ignorance or afflictions. No pretense. In simple words, no pretense. You give, you give. Whatever they do with it is up to them.
Sorry, thank you very much, Rinpoche, for your teaching. And I would like to go further on that previous question about it's quite obvious to see how we can be looking for attention when being kind. Sometimes, I don't know, once in a blue moon, I can find myself wishing somebody well, just making a prayer or just having a wish with maybe no action, but connecting a little bit maybe with a compassion in the heart. But still, what I find difficult is to connect with compassionate heart and making it really big, making it boundless, because I find it quite easy to connect with a specific situation, like a specific friend who is not well, who has problems, okay, connect with that. Or maybe extending to all the people having that kind of problem, but it's still very limited. How can we make compassion really big and really boundless?
You really have to wish for it also first. There are many different methods. First thing is to practice compassion. Then towards someone, it's easy for you to be compassionate towards. Everything is like that anyway, Dharma. We should be generous. Generosity is very important practice on the path to awakening, right? But in the beginning, it's easy to be generous towards Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, and our gurus than others. So we make a lot of offering. But it's supposed to go beyond that, because it's easy to make offerings to these people because we like Buddha. Oh, he opened the door of liberation to beings. We are thankful. Gratitude, we like this person. So even his statue is nice. feel good to offer. So we do that. Then slowly, you're supposed to then just make offering to anybody. Same goes with anything, prostration. You're supposed to prostrate to all beings. So with the compassion, it's the same. You start with what is easy for you. And so if it's easy for you to be compassionate towards your family or friends, then we start with that. And it should reach to a point where, let's say you're contemplating on your family, and you're thinking about all the lives they must have taken, all the lives they will take in future. Lives taken, I mean, like all the rebirths that they might have in future. And what will happen? Who will protect them? Even now, there's so much going on in their lives. So I wish all of their suffering and the causes of suffering can go away. May all beings, may their suffering and causes of suffering be, exhausted, right? So that you put in this person, the 4 immeasurables. You do 4 immeasurable for this person. It's a meditation until it is unbearable, until you feel like I must pack everything and go to wherever this person is. Then you then add on to all the other beings, slowly. By that time, when it's become unbearable like that, your heart will open up quite a lot. It'll be easier now than to add their family, their friends, their, and understanding is very important. To have an understanding of basic conditions of all beings. Very much like stories, when we tell stories. But the movie makers, they know this when they tell a story to us. They know that if you do not say anything about the villain, this villain is just villain from the beginning of the movie. Terrible. No compassion, always harming everybody. You really begin to hate this character. And when the character is dead, you're like, well, I'm Buddhist, but that was good, like that. How many of you watched Game of Thrones? I don't know. Some of you, exactly, when Joffrey died, right? I'm sure a small part of you rejoiced. This boy died. He was a terrible villain. Now, similarly, sometimes then what you see is someone tells you a story, like a movie, but this time they tells you from the start how this person was born and mistreated and heartbroken again and again until they become this terrible person. You no longer hate them anymore. Your perception changed. It's tragic. It's not ugly or terrible. It's tragedy for you now. And that's the case of every bad person that you think in this world. When their parents, they were taking care of them, they were not thinking, I'm raising a super villain. They were thinking, they must have so much love. Doesn't matter who. I know these days when we say have love and compassion for your parents and so on, then some people say, oh, my mother is terrible, my father was terrible. I'm sure there has been. Yet, somebody took care of you. Someone made sure you didn't die. Someone made sure you had food. Somebody taught you how to walk and talk and sit. And somebody protected you. We would all be dead if we were ignored as a toddler, even for a half an hour, most of us. Someone watched over us. So compassion, really, if you have a deeper sense of compassion, then this sense that I am like disconnected from others, like, like some people say I'm self-made, I'm self-made, because they only think about last 10, 15, 20 years of them struggling into something. Nobody is self-made. There is no such thing as self-made. Oh, gosh, how much we owe to people. So then you begin to soften a little bit. I'm a product of each breath I take is due to kindness of someone else. And if your parents are terrible, if you think my parents are terrible, imagine, even while being terrible, they managed to keep you alive. That is amazing. Even while being extremely selfish, if you think my mother is very selfish, she kept you alive. Your father kept you alive, somebody kept you alive. So, Dharma is not possible without gratitude, humility. You do whatever you want, nothing will happen. Go on a mountain, sit there for your whole life, grow hair as long as it just fills the whole cave. If you have no gratitude, it's useless. So, now, compassion that Dharma practitioner has is just not like, oh, I want to help them. It's more rooted in reality, like impermanence, for example. Impermanence, that's just, we talked about it last year too, impermanence. It's the only thing we have. There's nothing else that we have. And it's just so beautiful, impermanence. It makes everything possible. Yes, please.
Is it on? Yeah. So you're saying that this higher level of compassion is rooted in impermanence and emptiness. So my question is how do we not become arrogant and stay connected to this simple experiences, like our connection to our mother or someone we care about, which you mentioned is where the compassion stems from. How do we avoid becoming arrogant and forgetting that origin?
Well, you have to think about it again and again. Really. Tulku Rinpoche is one of the last centuries, one of the greatest meditator, Zapatul from Tibet. One of his most important student was Nyoshu Longtok, the past life of Nyoshu Khenpo that many of you may know. Nyoshu Longtok was a very important meditator. And he spent, I think, more than 18 years with this great master. One day, Tulku Rinpoche asked him, "Do you miss your mother?" And he said, "No, I don't. I am a wandering yogi." And Tulku Rinpoche said, "Then it's useless. All the things we've been doing has been useless for all these years." And so Tulku Rinpoche sent him, said, "Go there and don't come back until you truly miss your mother." No, really. So he spent under some trees like more than a week contemplating about the kindness of mothers, his mother. And he come back, and you should show his face, and he said, now you're ready to practice. It's really like that. And in that regard, then arrogance will not come, because you're just returning kindness. There's nothing else. When you're just returning kindness, then it's not like you giving, you're so great that we help others. It's more like a yeah. Is there someone else? Yes, sir.
Thank you. Until now. Just a short question. Maybe how can we detect if this compassion is a genuine one? It's not, and it's not a fuel or food for the ego.
Yeah. Thank you. That's important. And that only you can tell. We ourselves, we have to be our own God. And we have to, some masters, they don't like it when everything goes well. They don't trust it. Oh, everybody's so nice to me. What's going on? But guess they're afraid. Oh, pride will come now. Why are they so nice? Everything is working. This kind of, so with our own mind, pride comes when you're happy. You're like, rejoicing, joyful. That's when you're not on God. So we have to watch out. And it's again basic motivation. You have to have the motivation to watch your mind. It's really like that. There was the Kadampa master, Geshe Ben. His only practice, he said, my only practice is to watch my mind, especially my self-grasping ego. That's the only practice I have. If the ego gets activated, I get activated. If ego relaxes, I relax. So one day, he was visiting some people, and tea in those days in Tibet was very, very expensive, tea bags. Now, we had tea bricks from China, and they were so expensive because by the time tea reaches from China till Tibet, the cost of labor was so high that it became very expensive. So he was a yogi, Geshe Ben, student of Dromtenpa, one of the students. So one day he was invited somewhere, and there was a really nice tea bricks on the table, and he thought, oh, I wish I can have that. And he wanted to touch it. And then he shouted, thief, thief. They all came. What happened? He said, look, I'm about to steal. It's like that. So, but you also have to know when to relax a little bit too. Sometimes if you're too diligent, you become a bit pessimistic. That's when you have to remember Buddha nature. Buddha nature is also there. So take good news and bad news together. So it's like balancing it out. Well, I see time is running. Now, in short, there are two kinds of compassion. That's conditional and unconditional. Conditional is most of our compassion, all of our compassion. If you are like me, you have conditional compassion. It depends on things. Someone has to suffer. Someone has to You need an object, then you can have compassion. You need someone, something. Then there is a kind of compassion that is not conditional. No reason needed. You are just compassionate, like a fully awakened being. Buddha doesn't think, oh, he or she suffers, I must do something, I must teach, I must say something. Just he himself was so free that everything he did was compassionate. That kind of compassion is called object-less compassion. Only possible after you see emptiness. It's just, but something to aspire for. Objectless compassion. Maybe we'll talk about it more tomorrow, because that's all it's about, objectlessness, the Diamond Cutter Sutra. And then with that comes objectless compassion. You can understand compassion as warmth. You have warmth, each one of you. I remember this what do you call it? Incident, yes, incidents, or something that used to happen to us a lot, to me a lot. I used to go to boarding school in North India. Cold place, that one, very cold. And we would take a night bus, this Indian state night bus. The windows keep opening. It's like, even if the windows are closed, the air just covered is so cold. And then you're so happy when someone walks in. More people makes it warm. I remember those nights, it's so cold. And if you're sitting on your seat alone, those Indian 3 people seat are so cold. And especially like a big person comes in and sit here. So good. You really value warmth. Compassionate people are like that. When you have there is something in you that really translates to your surroundings. There is warmth. People want to be around you too. They need reason to be around you. They look for reason to see you. Because, not because of anything else, but you have compassion. What better situation for a bodhisattva than this? You want to help beings, and being wants to be with you. It's perfect. There is warmth, really. Day by day. If you are someone who's watching a lot of news, you end up becoming, what do you call it? Cynical. Cynical is the word? Cynical. Cynical. Because all you're doing is finding out what's going wrong. There is so many good things happening everywhere. They're not on news because it doesn't sell, it's boring. It's not interesting. Millions of people, I don't know if Oslo has millions of people, but is it? Okay, hundreds and thousands of people in Oslo did not kill each other tonight. That's amazing. That's really, they did not rob each other. They did not. They went to sleep. This is good news. No one will tell you that. Really, it's like, compassion also depends a lot on how you look at things, because that generates understanding. As a meditator, I love reading. One thing I did, of all of my mistakes, one thing I did correctly was I used to read a lot of biographies, volumes and volumes and volumes of them. When I was supposed to be studying philosophy, I did not. I would go to classes because it's just, I don't understand it. It's boring. So I go back and I read biographies of the Kagyu masters, the Nyingma masters, the Sakya masters, Gelupas, the early Gelupa masters. I read different Kagyu lineage. And one thing that is true in all of those biographies is that teachers who focus on compassion more, they seem to gain realization fast, easier somehow. It's almost not fair to others. Really, it's very strange. Those who are more compassionate, even in their biographies, they stress a lot on compassion. They don't really seem to work hard for realizations and these kind of things. In Kamalashila's Bhavanakrama, someone asks Avalokiteshvara, what should a bodhisattva do? Someone who wants to become Buddha, what should they do? Avalokiteshvara says, compassion. That's the only thing you need, compassion. I don't know if I want to now go through these, but yeah, if you have questions, then please raise, or else I want to quote Trungpa Rinpoche, Chögyam Trungpa, this Khampa Lama who passed away in the US. He said something that he's a poet, I think, a poet. So it's not really accurate. It's like scholarly accurate many times. But these poet people, they don't care. They want to write poetry. And sometimes they write beautiful things. He said something that I really like. I've admired it for more than 10 years of my life. And I thought I would just read it here. Maybe that will help. You have questions, please. Yes.
Rinpoche, could you say a little bit about the connection between Buddha nature and compassion, please?
Yes. Compassion is what gives Buddha nature the strength to awaken, to rise. Compassion. Just very short. Without compassion, there's nothing. Mahayana path, there's no Mahayana path without compassion. You do whatever you want. Build billions of stupas, but that's that. You're just building things. Without compassion, nothing will work. Without compassion, also, Vajrayana won't make sense. Vajrayana will not make sense at all. In Vajrayana, maybe I can say it since it highlights the strength of compassion. Sometimes in the tantras, the Buddha, Heruka, and his consort will just dissolve, sort of vanish. And then all the Dakinis will panic. They will think about the suffering of beings. Who will teach them now? Who will help? And then they will make prostrations and sing songs and beg the Buddha to awaken, to arise again. And then the Buddhas, and his consort will arise again, like that. Without compassion, no Vajrayana. Without compassion, no Mahayana. Nothing. So compassion is what enables us to see Buddha nature, enables us to even, it's like that, I think. Yes, please.
I wonder if you could talk a little bit about love and compassion. Why do we differentiate between them? I mean, does the other stay without the other? I mean,
It's just,
what is the difference between them? And
love. When you say love, you mean in the 4 immeasurables, that love. Yeah. It's basically same, but just a very slight difference in grasping. Compassion is more focused on removing suffering, where love and kindness, that the first one, may all beings have happiness and causes of happiness, is more focused on them having happiness and causes of happiness. They are like 2 sides of the same coin. When you have one, the other is implied.
Can you not be out and love the other? I got very close to the other. We did talk about all things about so factor of love. That's fun.
It depends on what is our understanding of happiness and suffering, and the cause of happiness and cause of suffering. But here, because this 4 immeasurables is used by Buddhists, non-Buddhists, many different Indian schools. So it's not a unique Buddhist thing, these 4 immeasurables. When it comes to us, although all of us say, may all beings have happiness and causes of happiness, the meaning of happiness and causes of happiness is very different. And then saying, may all beings be free of suffering and causes of suffering, the meaning is very different. So here, in this regard, it's not possible. It's just, if you have loving kindness, you are having compassion. Yeah. Okay.
Can you please elaborate a bit more on the arrogance?
Arrogance? Arrogance or this kind of pride. Buddha gave teaching to all kinds of people, but to arrogant ones. He gave teachings to murderers, kings, monks, nuns, animals, insects, snakes, all kinds of beings, but not to someone who have a lot of arrogance, because it's useless. That's the whole point. When you're full of arrogance, nothing impresses you anymore. You see something wonderful, first of all, you don't see the beauty in it. And if you do see, if someone sees the beauty in it and tells you, it annoys you, and you think, I can also do that. Anything you tell this person, they think, oh, I can also do that. Arrogance, oh, that's also very difficult to get rid of it too. But yeah, it's really, it doesn't let you see the qualities of others. So devotion is difficult. It doesn't let you understand conditions of others. Compassion is difficult. You're always thinking about, how does that make me feel? How does it's all about you and your feelings, your ideas and your beliefs. And then this is become a prison and you never get out of it, I think. Well, I'm going to read this quote of Tulku Rinpoche. I'm going to do a terrible job at it. It was funny. This afternoon, I was alone for a while and I pretended to imitate his voice to try to deliver it. And I thought, I'm not a performer. Why am I doing this? It's ridiculous. So I'm not doing that. I'm sorry. He has a very husky voice. It's difficult to do that too. But for me, I thought that is really how a bodhisattva must be, who doesn't need a reason to be compassionate, who's just compassionate and just kind, regardless of anything. He says, now this is all his quote, how much have we actually tried to connect with our own heart? And how much of that particular attempt to connect with our own heart has been repelled? Because you might discover something terrible in you when we want really to connect with our own heart. What are you? Who are you? Where is your heart? If you just put your hands through your ribcage and feel your heart, there is a tenderness. It feels sore and soft and it hurts. And you want to spill your heart to relate with others. That type of tenderness does bring a notion of fearlessness. Fearlessness that you have possibilities that the world around you can tickle your heart, your raw heart. How did he come up with that? This, wow, so profound. I'm out of things to say, so maybe we make dedication.
Ambangunye no marajo sanje kusum nyemben chelam dan chenye mejuran demben chelam dan gende meje demben chelam chidarango wa melam dum barajo